Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. You know, this season we've been talking about mentoring. And so I've been researching and really studying mentoring. And so I came across this article and I wanted to share it with you all before we bring our next guest, who serves as a mentee to one of our guests that have been on as a mentor. And so she invited one of her amazing mentees who has an incredible background and how mentorship helped her to land the role that she is in currently, and which is a corporate role. And so I'm just going to give you all some stats to help you all understand why we wanted to do this season on mentorship. Mentoring fosters employee skills development, okay? Organizations that choose to upskill instead of hiring externally save anywhere from 70 to 92%. Mentorship helps employees unlock the skills and opportunities they need to reach the next stage of their careers. Thought that was pretty powerful. Mentoring improves employee happiness and engagement. I saw that and I was like, yes. 9 in 10 employees who have a mentor at work are happy in their jobs, resulting in a more productive and engaged workforce. So when you are in a job and if it's your boss, serves as your mentor, look how happy they could be in your organization. And I think that's important. And this one right here that I want to bring to your attention is mentoring improves workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity mentorship programs help advance employees from underrepresented backgrounds while creating the connections they need to feel like they belong. Representation of equity-seeking groups at management level increases by up to 24% with a mentoring program. So I just wanted to start off really giving you all some stats about that, because I think our reason for doing this is really helping you to understand that currently we have, Black business owners who serve as mentors, maybe not that whole directly in an organization, but they are outside mentors that are really helping to create, happiness at their current jobs. And so our next guest, guys, her name is Lauryn Hill, not the infamous musician Lauryn Hill, just so you all know, but she is pretty powerful in her own right, because she was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, and currently is based in Brooklyn, New York. So there is some synergies based on the beloved Lauryn Hill. Before she became a senior digital photo editor at AARP, she was a photo editor at Wired magazine, where she started as a fellow in 2019. Prior to entering the workforce, she attended George Washington University, where she was the president of the collegiate chapter of National Association of Black Journalists, and became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She also holds a master's degree in museum studies from Johns Hopkins University. So we are excited to have her because she is also the mentee of Karen Williams, who was on the show that goes by Black Visual Queens, and she shared what she does to help photojournalists to be able to, maintain their business and, really build their own resume and portfolio. So welcome to the show, Lauryn.
Hi, thank you for being here.
So you have to tell our listeners how you met your mentor, Karen.
So I was at Wired. As one can imagine, journalism has a very high turnover rate. And during the time, Wired was sifting out of people in the photo department because they were leaving to go to other jobs. And Karen came on as a freelance photo editor to help us with a lot of the heavy news coverage that we were dealing with. And I was the only Black photo editor on the team at the time. And so it was really nice just having another Black person on the team. It's nice to connect with her at Wired. I think the first time she freelanced at Wired, it was probably around 3 months. I can't remember the exact timeline.
Okay. And so was she your direct kind of supervisor, or she just was a member of the team?
She was just a member of the team.
Got it. So very much you would consider her in that capacity as somewhat like group mentoring, right? She was part of the group and was able to mentor you based on lack of representation at the organization.
Yeah. At that time, we actually didn't touch base as often because I was more so still in the researcher phase of my career. So I wasn't doing all the fun commissioning work that Karen was being hired to do. So she was touching base more so with my boss, like my actual boss.
Okay.
Yeah. But as time went on and I got to know her, she dropped a lot of gems, gave me a lot of advice about the commission work and what it takes to be a great photo editor.
So was it organic, how the mentorship relationship began?
It was very organic. And I think it's simply because we're two Black women in a majority white, majority field, white, male-dominated industry.
And so knowing that, I'm going to take a step back because I wanted everyone to be able to connect because they've heard about, Dr. Karen Williams and her organization, her company. And so just having you here to obviously represent and be the byproduct of her mentorship, I really want to take a step back. Was this your dream job, or was this a job that said, okay, this sounds interesting, or was that the dream job at Wired?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
I was introduced to photography in the 6th grade.
Nice.
I wasn't necessarily sure what I wanted to do in the field. I didn't quite want to be a photographer because that was all I was doing in the 6th grade, and it involved a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of work, and the idea of being a freelance photographer in middle school and high school was unappealing to me at the time. And so I did know that I wanted to direct shoots, but I didn't know what the job was called for that sort of role.
And I'm glad that you shared that you started in 6th grade, and I love that you explored and was curious, in 6th grade. I love that. And then, but just knew like this was a lot of work. And so literally I think about it, and you landed your first. So did you have mentors before you landed that job? Like, how did you get that job?
I did have mentors, and they were Black women also.
Nice.
One of my favorite college professors, Dr. Imani Cheers.
Shout out to Dr. We like to shout out mentors. So I just want to say, what is her name? Dr. Imani?
Dr. Imani Cheers. She's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta.
Hey, my soror. All right, my soror. All right, come on. Let's talk about my soror.
Yeah, but she was an amazing professor and mentor to have at George Washington University, along with her and my other professor. These were also professors in the journalism school. So they were very knowledgeable about the industry. I did my independent study with Dr. Cheers, and we focused on the history of Black photography and just trying to understand what I wanted to do in this field. She was also very adamant in preaching to her students about getting a job after college. Because I was considering graduate school. I was not getting any leads at all in the industry. My major was journalism. I didn't like to write, or I knew I didn't want to be on TV or be a reporter. And the first photo job that I applied to was Wired's fellowship program. And I don't know why I wasn't looking for photo internships and fellowships when I knew that was the field that I wanted to be in. I applied. She gave me a great reference along with my other college professor. Excuse me. And I got the position.
You got the position. So I love to hear that story because we don't understand. I mean, with mentorship, right, allows us to network in those spaces that not only, I say networking is one thing, but mentorship lets you have the opportunity to say, hey, this I endorse, right? And based on their influence, it speaks volume. And then from there, the networking starts to begin. So, kudos to you for understanding the value of mentorship, right? And so understanding that is so important. And so knowing, like, is it important? Like, I always I wanted to ask you this question, like, you, were a member of National Association of Black Journalists and love it. And I have been a member as well. Is it important to be with communities that represent you, even though, the world isn't all Black? Like, is that important for you?
For me specifically, or do I think that that's an important concept in general?
A little bit of both. Like, I'd love to hear yours. And then do you think it's an important concept today?
Personally, for me, I do think that it's important to be in like-minded spaces because they help give you confidence. They help reinforce ideas that you might have questioned. They help you get yourself out of imposter syndrome. I think it's an important concept in general for people to lean into. Whether you're Black, Asian, whatever ethnicity you might be. I think that all in all, being in spaces that can uplift you and can affirm that you're on the right track will ultimately lead to your success.
And do you think it's a concept that people should model?
I don't want to say they should model it because I think
encouraged.
Yeah, I think they should try to lean into those like-minded spaces. I think anyone could sort of get the knowledge that they need to excel in life on their own. But when there's been a blueprint already put in place and there's already been ideas that other people with like minds have already considered, it's like you could probably get to your finish point faster. It saves you a lot of time when you can connect with people who are like-minded and who might share the same ideas as you.
I'm so glad you said that. And I say that because I think we haven't heard it from the mentee standpoint. We hear it from the mentor, but hearing it from you in this mentee relationship, that I think it's powerful and vital because we believe that, right, that, because someone's been in a role for several years, that they are considered like, and I'm going to use this term, know-it-alls, right? When I love how you eloquently shared that they have the experience, there's a shared interest right there, and that they have it to get you to your desired goal faster. That's it. It's not to take away from each person's experiences, but I think it's desired because you want to get to your goal faster. And, knowing that really helps you show up in the world that you in. And I'm going to say this, well, not only just like educated, but I also think it allows for you to be savvy and resourceful and well-versed. And so those things are qualities that goes to me beyond the degrees.
I agree. And something that has been on my mind very recently is, I don't know the entire Bible verse, but it's in the Bible, and it's you lack nothing. The Lord is my shepherd, you lack nothing. And every step that we've taken, all of the knowledge that we've acquired, all the people that we've met, like you were saying, like they are part of our bucket of resources, and we have everything that we need as individuals and as a community to pull ourselves up. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
I love that you said that, because we don't. And when we lack nothing, and I've always said that, one of mine on that is asking you shall receive. But inside of that is, it never said you going to receive it tomorrow, right? Or next week, or next year. It says asking you shall receive, knock, right? And we're supposed to ask and knock and do those things. Is that door going to open up today? Maybe, maybe not. Right. But it's putting action behind it, and the action of, having someone to endorse you, give you feedback is the action. Right. Versus, yep, I submitted my resume and I'm just going to get it. Okay. And that's it. Right. And so I think that's important. And you learned that pretty swiftly. And I love that you learned it, along the way. So it just wasn't like in the career space. It was in a career space, but it seems like you had plenty of mentors leading up to college. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think, really is probably why engaging in a relationship with Dr. Karen was easy and organic, because you were in that space, very comfortable in that space, very open to that. So that's great. So I want to ask you this, because I do think, in a mentee relationship, we look at, right? We look at, obviously origin, color, right? Age, experience, maybe sometimes interests, lifestyle. Do you believe that age is helpful, or do you believe sometimes, and I don't know this to be true, that age can be a barrier?
Let me think on this just a little bit. I don't think that age is a barrier at all. I personally think that when it comes to mentor, whether the mentor is 2 years older or 10 years older, it's about like their experience level, at least for me, in terms of how I feel that they can help me and vice versa, because I do think that sometimes mentors can learn from their mentees.
And vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I asked that question because sometimes I hear like, and I've just heard it like, just because she's been in business for 30 years, she can't tell me what to do. Right. Or reverse, they only been in this business for 3 years and they want to tell people what to do. We use it.
Yeah.
And we use it. And I like that you said it shouldn't be a barrier, because the reality of it all is they've got something that you want. And I think that's the difference, right?
Right.
The difference is your mentor should have something. And that something doesn't necessarily career. It could be a skill to be a good listener, right? Could be a skill to be a good writer. Could be a skill that handles conflict resolution, right? It doesn't mean that it's based on the job, more so the skills. And I think that's what we mess up at.
I agree.
It's gaining the skills, not necessarily making the person have the experience. So I'll give you, and I think about that because when that environment that you were on, and you were not directly close in, but you saw some skills. And of course, she looked like you. And, so that was a plus. It created that organic, because it's like, man, that's my, like, she got something I want, and also not taking from you. Do you ever feel as a mentee, or have you experienced this, that in that mentorship relationship that you're taking from that mentor?
No, because I do try, when I'm like developing a mentor-mentee relationship, I do try to make sure that relationship is genuine. That first, my mentor is open to sharing that knowledge with Karen, is so open to sharing knowledge with everyone. So I never feel as if I'm taking anything from her. Also, as a mentee, I personally feel that I also have a responsibility to keep the relationship also. Whether that is, this is difficult because Karen has never asked me to do anything like related to her brands, but like representing her on this podcast. I think that is part of the relationship of how I can give back to her too.
That's good. Is it important, and I think, the reason why we built this whole season is we feel like, and again, we have a lot of online mentors, right, that are public figures that we follow, that we wanted to identify, mentors who are doing amazing work in their own fields, running their own businesses. And the reason why we brought the mentees is exactly what you said, is the fact that are they great mentors, right? So bring the mentees, right? Versus they are mentors, but let's back it up, right? It's like that whole thing. Let's just back it up, and you get to back it up. And that's what we thought it was important, because we don't hear mentors. We hear public figures, whether that's, and I'm going to ask you, who might be, your aspirational mentor that is a public figure. But we felt like people say these things, but there are so many people that are not public figures, or maybe people don't know that they should know through their career. Like we love Ava DuVernay, right? She's a screamer, right? But who's the next Ava? It's about 500 of them, So how do we connect with them, and Issa Rae's, like, how do we connect with those? But sometimes we go all the way to the very top because of their level of celebrityism, right? And versus like knowing that they probably had about 200 people that were not celebrities to get them there, but we miss out on that part, right? So that's why coming here, and you said, I did this to pay it forward. I think it's just, we have to make sure that part of mentorship is part of saying names for people to know that there's just not one.
Right. I agree.
Because in those spaces, we're typically one. But when we can say, actually, my mentor, it's like, oh, so now there's two? So it changes the conversation. But in a lot of those marginalized communities we typically are the one. right? We are that one. And then so based on that one, that to me doesn't make us fit and adequate to advance, because we are literally educating versus gleaning.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
You know, you're listening to Black Businesses Matter, and we will continue our conversation in a second. But first, take a listen to this special message for our BBM fam.
We know how important it is to stay connected, so why not join our BBM Fam Club for special announcements and exclusive offers by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300. That's BBM FAM to 312-300-1300 today. Now let's get back to Black Businesses Matter.
So I do want to ask you, like, now that you are in this new role, was Dr. Karen, helpful in you becoming the senior digital photo editor of AARP, which we love AARP. So just want to let you know that us at the podcast, we love it because, you get some discounts, you get a couple of things. So we like the discounts, but was she helpful in your journey there?
I will say that Karen's been more helpful after I got the position, because I didn't per se include her in the process of me thinking about accepting a job or staying at Wired. Mm-hmm. I honestly didn't tell many people about my decision to hop. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. It was such a difficult decision, and it's like a decision that only I felt that I could have made for myself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so after I got the position, I spoke to Karen, and we just talked about AARP. We talked about the job market, and I hate to say this on the record, but after being at Wired for 5 years, the adjustment was very difficult. Mm-hmm. And also being on the cusp of the millennial generation and Gen Z, I think there is a reputation that both of the generations may carry about themselves, that they don't work as hard as the older generations, or they're trying to make a quick buck. And so I personally feel that after the pandemic, I think a lot of people in the job force became a bit exhausted. And it was really hard for me to pick up my mental when I made that transition the first month. But Karen, honestly, for lack of better words, she slapped me to wake up. Mentally, it was like, listen, it's new. It's also a good paying job. And it's like, just buckle down and adjust. And so after 3 months, I do find myself in a better position at AARP and really getting the hang of just the style and the work culture there. So it was good to have her at that moment.
That's good. It's good to have that mentor. You made the decision single-handedly on your own. I love that you said that, because only you can decide that. No one should decide or help you sway or this. They can help, I think, support you in your decision, but not to sway you into a decision. I don't think. I think its decision is made on you. And I love that you were able to do that. You had that, because maybe if you hadn't, right, you might have behaved differently and quit, right? That could have been the behavior to say, hey, this isn't working. And so having that level of reasoning, maybe that's the word, right? Reasoning, that you could bounce it off, and someone who knew you in that role too. And I love that she said it's new. And I don't know anybody that can say new isn't like hard. You know what I mean? Like all things that are new are hard, but hard doesn't mean bad.
Right.
You know, hard just means it's new. And that's why it's hard, you know? I mean, I think if you think about it as a child, right? Riding a bike was hard. Like it really was hard.
Yeah.
And then when you got used to it, it was like, oh, you know, and then guess what happens? You can ride a bike, you know, at any age. But initially, it's hard. It's just hard. So I think we have to give ourselves grace in that area when it is new, and having your mentors, I think, gives you a sense of grace in that space. And so I think I love that, you know, you've had this mentor that was group. And so I had, you know, kind of broke down these mentorships in the early part of our season. But I also now look at, you know, when I look at kind of your relationship with her now, it literally now is no longer group. It's one-on-one.
Yeah.
You know, so the evolution of mentorship, that's the other part. It doesn't have to stay like that. You know, it can grow. And they even call situation, they actually have a term called situational mentoring. So based on situations you have a mentor for, you know, and so I thought that was interesting, you know, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be formal. I think you design the mentorship relationship that you want.
I agree. Are you talking, you design the relationship you want in terms of situational mentorship or just in general?
Just in general. I think you just, because I think when I saw situational, I think situational becomes, so for example, you know, situation is I lost a parent. Somebody can help you mentor you through that, right? That's a basis situation to help you in your job. And oh my gosh, I experienced that. And how do you show up and go to work? So that part is situational. But I think the idea of that is, you said it earlier, it's like-minded. It's just being able to connect. And that doesn't have anything to do necessarily on someone looking at you, but someone who's experienced something that can help you know that there could be things that you can do, you know? Right. So I think that's what's powerful. And so the thing that I want to bring to your attention now that we've kind of dived into this. So I want to hear, in your new role here at AARP, what's been in this role as this senior, I want to make sure I got it right, senior digital photo editor. Are you gaining new skills in the new role?
Slowly but surely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think the photo team on this particular side of things at AARP, it's a bit smaller. Okay. So I directly communicate with my manager to discuss photo visuals, but we also have a part of the team. They are sort of the illustrators and designers. They're bigger. So I would say between me and my manager, it is a lot of more discussion around each web story that we both have sort of a large oversight on. Whereas at Wired, I had my strict section and I was focused on those strict sections, and that was it. But now it's a broader scope of images that I'm sort of seeing.
And so I think it's, you know, and I think, you know, recognizing the space that that you are in, I think is so powerful. So, you know, I've got to ask this. Is it important as we continue to build in this place of mentorship? Do we have to say that mentorship has and must be someone that looks like you?
No, I don't think so. I think that having someone that looks like you could make conversations more open, more straight to the point, like just the conversation, the language used in conversation, you might just understand what that person is saying if they, I want to say look like you, because you can look like me and still not understand certain things that I'm trying to say in like my certain lingo, for lack of better words. But I do think it makes it easier to communicate to a certain extent. But I don't think people should pigeonhole themselves to being open to only mentors that look like them or mentees.
I think that's helpful. I think saying that is very helpful because I think in some regards, we feel like we have to, right? In some organizations. And I think it's good to say it, namely because I like that you talked about what generation you come from, right? So is it now generations, right? Is it better to have someone that's in your generation or a generation ahead of you or a generation below you?
Sorry for cutting you.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to piggyback off of something you said earlier about the skill set, because the world that we're in today is moving so fast.
I know.
One of the best skills that one can have is the ability to pivot. And so with that being said, maybe a Gen Z social media director could probably be a great mentor to someone, a millennial who is trying to create their own business and trying to understand the social media landscape, but they weren't necessarily, millennials are a large group, but they weren't necessarily embedded in that culture of being on social media the entire time. So I definitely think that's an example of how mentees and mentorship can sort of break this traditional structure of what that relationship looks like.
And I think we also have to get away from labels, right? This idea that, right, we know the baby boomers are who they are, right? I know I work in marketing and I hear it all the time, but I think what we have to understand is every generation has a thing. And because they have a thing, we can take some of that and implement that, right? Take a little bit of that. You take a Gen X, you take a baby boomer, you take millennials, you take Gen Z, right? And then you take this next generation, and we take a little bit of everything in that. I think that's how we get to build the next future generation, right? Because baby boomers, there's no way a Gen X can do what they do without what they were fed by Gen X were fed by baby boomers.
Right.
So you're going to have a little bit of that. You may not have that as a dominant, but you're going to have a little bit. And I think that we have to understand that and really understand it. And I think we're slowly getting that, which is why I'm a fan of millennials and Gen Z, because I believe they have the opportunity to probably be exposed to baby boomers and Gen X, which I think is far diverse for them, for those, to me, those generations to really innovate. That's what I say. When you think of it from the stand, like I feel like Gen Z can win at everything because they got a little bit, whether great, you know what I mean? Grandma was baby boomer, mama could be Gen X or millennial, right? Or whatever. And so having that background allows for there to be, I can still get my grandmother to feed me information. I mean, you know what I mean? Give me mentorship. I can still get my parents' friends to also be mentors, right? And I can still have a millennial at the top that can help me. So I think that's, to me, if I was to say Gen Z is that it generation, because it literally got it, you know, has the work ethic. They can. So when you said they made that statement about that, I think is such a erroneous statement because I don't think that to be true.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't think it's true because it's a generation. What I do think is true is that they have access to way more than at this. But just because we have more access just creates efficiency. So in some kinds, we could use that as common rate. And I say that because I will tell you this. One of our mentors, Scott, he gave me something, and I don't use GPS. I don't really use GPS in Chicago. That's where I'm living, right? And he said, "Why not?" He says, "Wouldn't it be great to just have somebody else tell you where to go? And quite frankly, you might learn a different route that you've never learned." He's a peer-to-peer, right? Where I came from, I didn't grow up with GPS. I grew up with a map, and no north, south, east, west. But he exposed me to say, just try it, because you might go a different direction that you never would have gone if it wasn't for, GPS in your car.
Yeah.
So I think we have to realize that sometimes we have to undo some of these things in our own generations to be open to just new. It's challenging. Right. It's hard, but it's new. So I love, having this conversation with you. I do want to, because I think it's important to some of our listeners, because I want people to understand that we did this segment merely to shine light on mentors, and mentees get to shine light on their mentors. And you've certainly done that. So I appreciate you. And so based on the fact that you are also a rock star, can you share what you believe are some tips that people should model after, whether they have a mentor or do not have one or should have one, that they should do to be the best leader at an organization or a best leader running their own organization?
Okay, can I repeat what I think I heard?
You sure can. I love it.
So you want me to give some tips to mentors and mentees?
Yep.
On how they can just be great leaders?
Yes.
Okay. Well, our last conversation about being open, I think, is a great tip. And in that, I think the biggest tip is to sort of remain humble and remain a student.
Yep.
Always be open to learning something new, because as I also said earlier, the industry is ever changing and there is a need to be able to pivot. In terms of leadership, I'm trying to think of some more tips.
I think you gave good. I mean, your 2 tips are powerful, right? Staying open, remaining a student. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful for all generations. What I'm trying to understand is, how do we build content that I used to tell my team, let's take an omni approach, right? Multiple ways. Like, that works whether you are the mentor, the mentee, right? It's not biased.
Yeah.
It's unbiased. And that's the way that we need to lean into. So I just want to give this opportunity. One of the things that we have during our show that we've launched is kind of like this brag moment. It's the BBM brag moment. So it allows for people that come on the show to just brag, because sometimes we don't do that as a community. And so being humble is a beautiful thing, and we're not saying not to be humble, but we feel like sometimes we're on these platforms, brag a little bit. So if you want to brag, you have a few seconds or a minute to brag, and it could be anything.
Wow. Brag about myself?
Yes, yourself.
Oh, wow. This is something I don't do often.
Exactly. And that's why we wanted to implement, so that people understand like who you are, and they can, when you share that, celebrate who you are too.
Yeah. I guess I'll give kudos to myself for being a hard worker. I got my master's degree while I was still full-time at Wired.
Wow.
And I didn't tell any of my coworkers.
Wow.
Well, told the company. But I didn't realize how tough that was until after I told people, and they said, "Wow, you did that?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I think I was so like on the ground in my mind during that time that I didn't even realize that what I was doing was something that some people my age don't do. So I guess that is my kudos moment.
Yeah, that's your brag moment, Lauryn. That's your brag. Shout out to Lauryn, guys, Lauryn Hill, on her moments of success in her life. And I think we have to. So, when you check her out, send her. I think she's provides something that we will have that you can look in the show notes and, congratulate her on that journey. Or maybe that's a journey you want to take and she could be your mentor. So that is an opportunity too. So certainly want to connect with her and give her some kudos and give her flowers. We love to give flowers. So we want to give her flowers for paying it forward. Someone looked out for her. So Lauryn, as we wrap up, this show is all about Black businesses and why they matter in this world, to make sure that we don't lose sight of the value of Black businesses, the impact that they have, and certainly the fact that they do shape culture in a lot of ways. And so why do you think Black businesses matter?
I think being in America, which is very capitalistic, it's important for Black people to own a piece of the pie. That's pretty much it in short. I think that the more Black businesses there are, the more that the community will be uplifted. It's important to see Black. I'm trying to think of the right phrases and words.
Just let it flow. Just let it flow.
I mean, it's just important for Black people to support their own people. Especially when that is the root of America and the biggest part of success of America is money and businesses.
We need to have a piece of the pie. I love that you said that. Yeah. That was a drop the mic moment for ownership. I think that's powerful. Is that something? Do you live in that mantra every day, even if you work for an organization that isn't?
Yeah, I do. I think it's important for not just for Black people to support other Black businesses, but for them to be financially literate, for them to understand their finances so that they can have a prosperous future for their offspring and for their legacy.
That's good. What I hear from you, and I could be wrong, you have been influenced with all generations. Because the way that you have, right? Yeah. I can feel that. I can feel that because your level of well-rounded and savviness it comes out. It's so evident. It comes out so freely. So continue that. I think more people will want you as their mentor for that, for that reason. So guys, you heard it. She just dropped the mic. Lauryn just dropped the mic on that. And so I think that's a piece that we can take. Every time I ask that question, I get something different. And I promise you, as someone that's, we're close to 90 something episodes. We're on our road to 100. That response still gives me chills, because every person responds very different, which means that that's what we talked about, that it's okay to be different and still have a voice in this world. So, Lauryn, one of our final questions, because we believe in Black joy. What brings you joy?
My family, God. I should have said that first.
That's all right.
Just life, the ability to wake up every day and to see what might happen. That's what brings me joy.
I love your spirit. I love it with every ounce in my body. I love it. You are powerful. You are a gift to this world. So I thank you for joining us today for this episode and making time and space to be able to share your mentorship journey. And this has just been a joy.
You really have. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Guys, this was an amazing episode. I don't get these episodes. I get them most of the time, but one that I can feel, and you all know it's audio. I don't always get a chance to see people, but I love when what represents in their audio is the energy they bring, and it's just beautiful. So guys, thank you for rocking with us for another episode. We got some more in this season on mentorship, so stay tuned and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Lauryn is so thoughtful, isn't she? It was so impactful to hear her considerations as she moves through her professional career and how she leveraged her mentor, Karen Williams' knowledge to help her navigate and guide her through her transition into her new role. Make sure you check out our show notes so you can continue to follow along with Lauryn's journey. Join us on our journey to 100 episodes by texting BBM-FAM to 312-300-1300. Make sure you text so you can hear about special offers in celebration of our 100th episode.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.